Reading of the book as I think, chapter 7, The Sacred, the Secular. The machine age is certainly making an honest effort to create a glorious world that can provide a greater happiness for its generation. Indeed, superficially viewed, the present age is spectacular in its luxurious arrangements, but a cook alone cannot promise the happy dinner, though he can produce for tasty dishes. The guests must have healthier appetite. The world of objects in itself is not life. Man living in the world and coming in contact with the available order of things comes to experience his share of joy and sorrow. This transaction is called life. Out of the marriage between man and the world is produced the incandescence of life. The scientific age, with its production, technology, quick transport, cheap prices, and so on, has brought all the objects of enjoyments to the very elbow of even the poorest man living in the most distant corners of the world. This is indeed a great success which deserves our sincere compliments. But the stupendous folly is when the champions of materialism thoughtlessly conclude that the happiness of man can be substantially increased simply by a steady improvement in the utilitarian comforts made available in the world outside. The best of the dinners served is but a bitter suffering to the one who is running a slight temperature. The dinner may be good, but the enjoyer is not sufficiently tuned up with the objects of joy, so that the equation of happiness cannot be currently formed. Philosophy and religion try to tune up the man. Philosophy rehabilitates the enjoyer's personality. Religion reorients man to live in perfect equanimity in all possible exigencies of existence. There was a time, especially in the medieval era, when religion got itself overemphasized and came to throttle the development of science and technology. They labeled science as witchcraft and banned its growth in society, resulting in the horrid dark age of a tragic European culture steeped in superstitions distorted by fanaticism and tarred by foolishness. The stalwart, in its heroic pace, can never be tamed by such meager fencing, propped up by irrational fancies, thoughtless prejudices, idle beliefs, and sapless superstitions. The storming surge of a progressive generation of those days dashed down the feeble fencing and gathering new momentum at each stride, changed for itself its progressive course, discovering in its onward rush new beauties and tapping new resources from the secret chambers of nature's inexhaustible treasure house, congratulating itself at every new invention and discovery. Science has thus grown in power and might, winning for man a thousand comforts which our forefathers would not have even dreamt of. The progress of science and the victory of materialism are no doubt greater achievements for man, and how sad. A successful revolution always nourishes a suicidal courage in the revolutionaries, and unless it is properly guided in its mounting passions, it can destroy the very goal of the revolution. Such a tragedy seems to have happened for materialism in the West. From under the loads of its heavy superstitions and suffocating shackles of religious fanaticism, the healthy intellect of the West rightly revolted and emerged spectacularly to fight for, vanquish, and rule over the realms of science. In this silent revolt, they had no masterly guide to lead them properly, and therefore intoxicated with their freedom. The majority of the masses have come today to believe that their scientific progress is because of their revolt against the sacred religious discipline. To them, therefore, today, to be against the sacred is to be assured of progress in the secular. Without any chastening philosophy, without any inspiring ideology, without any moral goal, without any softening devotion, spanner in hand and machine gun on its shoulders. Onward marches the Western civilization, ready to start a war at any moment for new material or for the market. They claim themselves to be a greater generation because they know how to wield the monkey wrench. In short, fanatical religion is as dangerous to the world as fanatical secularism. In the medieval era inaugurated if the medieval era inaugurated a dark age, our own is an age which is also stormy. This is the problem that man is facing today in the world. Naturally, the obvious solution seems to be in a harmonious blending of the sacred and the secular, the temple and the factory, the puja and the plowing. The hand with which we use the spanner and the screwdriver must also be trained to offer devotedly soft flowers and succulent fruits at the altar of the eternal truth. The secular sanctifies the state, the sacred softens the self. Man alone cannot live, the state alone is not prosperity. Healthy man living in a progressive state alone can bring about a prosperity that can waft the fragrance of peace and happiness. This harmonious orchestra played between the within and without of man is the true Shreyas of the world. In Gita, we have this scheme of life vividly painted. This sacred scripture of man, in its concluding stanza, declares openly this truth: where the sacred Krishna and the dynamic Arjun are together, there alone is the peaceful prosperity, dynamic progress, enduring welfare. The sacred and the secular can be blended. They should be integrated if man is to be saved, if the world is to be saved, if the world is to be redeemed from its self destruction. Chapter 8. Problems, face them. Who has no problems? But all are not victimized by their own problems. Majority are, but not all. A crowd of problems marching towards us with plans to conquer us is life to the majority, but some rare folks discover, even in the midst of a host of threatening problems, an artistic way of tickling them all to laughter. This art, in fact, should be the art of living unaffected by the little problems of our lives. Sometimes grave problems present themselves to an individual and completely roll him down to utter desperation. In all such cases, we can easily discover 100 others who, faced having faced similar problems, have come out of them all victoriously, untouched by their grinning threats. Loss of wealth or a dear and near relation are all examples, and a few come to consider these as grave problems, while others seem to discover in themselves a secret spirit of some mysterious power, encouraged by which they walk out of their heart pangs to face the problems in the open sunlit world. Grave problems can drive only unintelligent men of undisciplined thought and habits to an early grave. Others walk side by side with their grave problems and so manipulate the circumstances and make use of the various happenings around them that they always successfully push the problems into the grave and themselves safely walk away. Such men are the mighty men of destiny in the world. But the majority of us make the pilgrimage not hand in hand with our problems, but are driven by problems, and the problems push us into untimely graves of sorrow. In short, problems make graves for all of us. But even the grave is no problem for those who know how to meet it. A problem is never solved by succumbing to it. In fact, problems grow fattened and nourished by the number of victims that come under their onslaught. This is equally true both in the communal life as in the individual life. Problems of a nation are to be faced boldly by the people themselves. That indeed is a successful and thriving community which is competent and courageous enough to face its own problems. A man who compromises with them in a dire attitude of escapism is a man noted for utter failures all through his life. Therefore, each of us must learn the art of facing the upheavals in one's own individual life. The threat may be physical, mental, intellectual, or spiritual. At each level, the problems are to be solved by remedies applicable to that level alone. A Lebanon lass cannot escape her sense of disappointment if she is presented with a huge insurance policy fully paid up. An intellectual restlessness cannot be quietened by added physical comforts or by showing more and more love and sympathy towards the results. The spirituality The spiritually thirsty can find a real consolation only in and through constant spiritual practices. There is no shortcut, no quick path, no mysterious and secret way. The grand old path has to be trodden to reach the eternal goal of perfect peace experience. Chapter 9. Leave the ideal. You are not, unfortunately, what you think yourself to be. You think you are successful. Others in your office attribute your chair, perhaps to the greatness of your father in law. You think you are efficient and strict. Others consider you as weak and bad tempered. You count yourself to be kind father. Others say that you are spoiling your son. You imagine that you are a great Romeo to your neighbor's sister. She takes you to be a lunatic, though of an interesting and entertaining type. Thus, what you estimate yourself to be and what others judge of you from your actions are poles apart from each other. Your so called estimate of yourself is but your intellectual belief in some ideal picture of yourself. But in your dealing with the world outside, you are acting just the opposite, and the only one who is totally unconscious of the ugliness is yourself. We have thus, in each one of us, a double personality playing in us at all times. One, a personality which we believe in, and another with which we act out. Roughly, we can attribute the former to our intellectual entity and the latter to our physical person. Educated as we are, as a product of our study, appreciation, and admiration of some of the perfect qualities, both moral and ethical, in other great men, we have a vague picture of the ideal that we wish to be. This picture of the ideal, when entertained for long in ourselves, becomes so clearly impressed in ourselves that we come to believe that we are the ideal that we cherish. But alas, others suffer and groan under the persecution of what we actually are in our life. Our self unfoldment, our growth in ourselves, our personality charm can burst forth in all its fragrance and joy into full bloom only when we plan for and bring about an actual translation of our idealism into our day to day life. We must live what we believe in. We must act upon our own cherished ideas. We must strive to live our accepted philosophy of life. Or else, though a bhakta, we will run amok to carry away our Sita, thereby inviting not only our own destruction but a host of sorrows to a million others around us. As seekers and sincere aspirants to a higher cultural life, you all must learn to translate your ideal picture of yourself in your own workaday life. This is only possible through regular and sincere self examination and long, careful introspection. Each day, see the drama of your own day's life thrown up on the screen of your own mind and watch. Edit the play. Take new decisions, discover the faults, avoid them in your next 24 hours of life. Thus, one by one, weed out your weaknesses in your physical contacts and dealings, in your mental feelings and emotions, and in your intellectual estimation of things and beings. An idler alone is satisfied by as window shopper gazing. Walk out into the world, sweat and toil, earn and save, and reach with fruits of your own honest labor. Return to the shop, push open the door, walk in, approach the counter, order the things of your fascination, and come to possess it as your own. So, too, never allow yourself to feel satisfied by recognizing glories in somebody's life. When you admire the meekness of the compassion of Buddha, the gorgeous joys of Krishna, the dignified suffering of Rama, the wisdom of Vasishtha, or the dynamic philosophy of Shankar. Never sit back only to gaze at them and in futile wonderment. Merely come to believe in them, but feel the urge to cultivate such a noble and divine personality in yourself. Be aggressively good, strive hard, and develop these traits and come to live and express them in the world. Be a Dhananjay. What they did, we too can do. There is nothing we cannot achieve. There is nothing impossible to a determined, sincere, and industrious man of right judgment. Spare not yourself until you climb to the peak. Leave the valleys for others, the lesser ones, who are satisfied by the thrill of their crowded stink and mutual conflicts. Members of the Chinmay mission are not satisfied except by the sunlit peak of spiritual perfection. Therein awaits for you the realization of true Hinduism. Chapter 10, Life of Rhythm and Joy. Startling to the modern man will be the pronouncements of Sir Arthur Eddington, which he makes in his American lectures 1934 at the Cornell University. Therein, after raising a question, why should anyone suppose that all that matters to human nature can be assessed with the measuring rod? He answers that the nature of all reality is spiritual. Thus, in our century, many are the true scientists who have found the courage to acknowledge and declare that which no scientists of the last generation would have ever considered worth their serious thought. Sir Arthur Eddington even goes to the extent of declaring that he was sure that the mathematician understands the world of ours better than the poet and the mystic. All true artists, poets, literary men, and scientists, while they live peacefully, the harmony in life around them, peacefully come to comprehend the presence of a great rhythm in existence. This vague apprehension surprises some, staggers others, excites the curiosity of a few. But very rarely do the Western scientists feel a sufficiently provocative challenge in it to pursue the theme till they come to leave this spiritual oneness. The rishis of the Upanishads have been courtiers of this harmony. They investigated into it, observed its play, and systematized their knowledge in it into a subjective science, complete with its theoretical explanations and practical methods. Nature is not, to the Eastern thinker, an unwilling and aligned arrangement of things. On the other hand, to them, it is but the expression of the very same harmony that exists everywhere, which is at once the very core of the substance of the entire universe. Everything exists in it, and everyone must seek his fulfillment in it. To discover this harmony and live in attunement with it is to master life. With it is to master life. Inasmuch as thereafter one who is so perfect himself will have no tensions or strains while living through one's own day to day problems. Unfortunately, to the majority of us, this harmony is an accidental vision, an unpredictable divine visitation. Even when this harmony is felt, we know not how to persuade it to remain with us for a longer period of time. It comes at its own sweet will, woos us for a moment, and like the buzzing courtiers of flowers, it leaves us to pine for its next visit. The scientists of the Upanishads have systematically proceeded and have realized conditions in which this elation and ecstasy are produced and maintained in the human bosom. They also give us a perfect picture of the conditions and causes under which this spiritual glory gets itself deemed in us. This deity of harmony, itself seen manifest in all the activities of the universe, always dwells in the heart of man as the Supreme Self. Those who realize it through the immediate perception of the heart attain immortality. This is the roar of Upanishads, to live in attunement with this general harmony, in a close knit bond of love with the individual and his universe around him, is the happiest fulfillment that life can ever offer to man. This life of rhythm and joy is the life of complete relaxation and perfection. This is the goal of perfect living. This is the state of God realization, which knows no fatigue, recognizes no failure, perceives no discord, aware of himself and equally aware of all that is happening around. The divine man lives the Krishna life, undaunted by the world around and therefore ever ruling over its destinies. And all spirit of antagonism with the outer world of things and beings. Hate none, love all, and with this conquer even the most brutal of forces around you. As Sri Aurobindo says, live with him, be not shaken by the outward happenings. The Gospel Vedanta thunders, man, you are of one nature, the substance of God, one soul with your fellow men. Awake and progress towards your utter divinity. Live for the God in yourself and in others. This secret gospel, which was given till now only to the few, must now be preached openly and freely for all mankind, immediately, urgently, ardently. Can true history ever regret if the present generation comes to place a wreath of radiance on the tomb of life on the globe?